So usually it has to do with the bosses, like having challenges in terms of what bosses you're defeating. But I feel like the main thing that would keep me playing a game is having that social experience towards the end game. What's the point for me to farm all this gear and collect all the heroes? What am I going to do with them after? So once you're doing your content, you need to have some extreme valuable content that keeps players engaged. I kind of like got to the point where I understand how other players feel, like I'm doing this for a living is a bit different for me. I have more time to invest into the games, to play them. Then you have all these professional people that do go to work, they go home, they have their families, because most of the people playing these games, they're not 15 years old. I kind of like understand that how they feel. It's very hard to invest a lot of time into a game. You create the incentive for them to play it. So you don't necessarily need to tie missions to it. If you want people to play PvP, you give them the best rewards in PvP. You want people to kind of like look forward to new champions to try out, new heroes, however they will be called in the game, But I feel like 200-300 heroes champions will definitely kind of like be needed if you want the game to stay at the top. Let me add the third one. They can make some form of a world boss, which everybody works towards it.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Fateless podcast episode. Joining me from the Fateless team is going to be Simon and Sham, and our special guest this week is going to be another long-term friend of ours in Scratch. What's up, man? How you doing?
Yo, what's up? Doing good. Thanks for having me on, guys, and looking forward to discuss a couple of hot topics in here today. Huh?
Heck yeah. So what are you up to right now? What's Scratch covering, and what's kind of like the content cycle for you right now in the gaming cycle?
Man, pretty much the same thing. So I'm still covering Raid. I'm covering Dragon and Silent Gods at the moment. Looking into a bit of a different genre at the moment, like still gacha games, But there's a new game that came out recently, Wuthering Waves. Looks pretty awesome, So,
okay.
Yeah, there's tons of things on the table. Yeah.
Are you already covering that? Yeah, I'm interested.
A little bit. I've been so busy for the last 1 week. I didn't have the time to dedicate it as much as I would like to.
The intro music hypes you up, man. I was just listening. I'm like, damn, that's pretty good, because it's like it starts off kind of chill, and then oh man, it's good.
Nice, it's definitely pretty good. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Scratch, and I'll pass it over to Simon to kind of kick off the starter topic for today.
Yeah, so I think a really interesting one, bearing in mind you play a ton of these games, a ton of these kind of like Hero Collector, you've done channels on different ones as well. I was thinking like, what's the minimum that we need to launch with to have a chance of being successful? Like we've seen games come and go, and a lot of the feedback is they didn't have enough features, they didn't have enough heroes, it wasn't diverse enough. There's a whole bunch of different things which we know kind of like kill off a game quite early. So yeah, that was really what I was interested in chatting about. Perhaps we start with heroes and then we move on to features. But from your experience, where would you kind of pitch those things? So, how many heroes do you think is a minimum, and where have you seen it work and where have you seen it not?
So I do think that the hero part is very, very important when you're releasing a game. It's not just from the expander's perspective to kind of like keep them going, but you want people to kind of like look forward to new champions to try out, new heroes, however they will be called in the game, But I feel like 200-300 heroes champions will definitely kind of like be needed if you want the game to stay at the top. We've seen a lot of games like in the past. I know you've covered quite a few of them as well before that had like 20, 30, 50 hero champions, and they were just not successful enough. People were getting super bored of it, trying the characters quick, and if you acquire those characters too easily as well, that's something that really puts people off. As much as people are always complaining that, I wish this game is more free to play.
Yeah,
you give them a free to play game, and then 2 weeks later they don't play it anymore because they're bored of it. They have
it's
no
boring,
frustration that they're not getting the heroes. So a lot of these things, they do need to have a good balance, and you definitely need to have at least a couple of hundred heroes in there. If you
I think when we were first pulling the team together and first kind of like talking about, okay, what do we need to do to have a chance? And actually, that was one of the things that we stuck on, was like number of heroes is super important. And actually, a game like Genshin Impact goes against that, but then it's more about like the MMO aspect rather than pure hero collector. But yeah, most of these games that launch with, like you say, 50, and there's loads that have launched with 50, they come in, they've got some interesting stuff going on, but he would get bored of them. And yeah, that's interesting. I know, Sham, when we've spoken about this before, you know, we were talking 200 minimum, but really we wanted to launch with 300. That's kind of like the goal we're working towards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, so, I mean, and that's a good shout out, because like it really is kind of that. It's not just heroes, of course, right? This is like one aspect of it, but it's all about that journey. I think that's kind of what you're kind of like highlighting, is that you're playing these games, and it's like you said, if you get everything, you get all the characters, you get all the heroes or whatever, you get all the equipment, you progress really quickly. It doesn't matter the amount. It's about like that feeling of that gradual feeling of progression, right? And if you like, you know, if we hit the wall and you're done, as soon as you hit that wall, people are out, right? I mean, it's not fun anymore to even like, if you're like, oh, but we can mix up these characters and I can PvP. It's like when you hit the absolute pinnacle, and if you're there to collect, that might just be the collection, right? If you're there to you know, be the best at PvP, I guess. If it's like too easy, if there's no competition, or if you're there for the environments, not the environments, the PvE, then, you know, if you beat everything really quickly, then like you said, 2-3 weeks, maybe a couple months, you're just gonna peter out. So yeah, it's almost interesting to understand, like, what are the modes that keep you playing some of these games? Like what's
just before you go on to that, I just wanted to say one other thing on heroes as well, because number is one thing, right? But if you've got a whole bunch of them, it's just like attacks all enemies. Like, they're basically doing the same job. And I know, I mean, I played Awakened Chaos Era for a bit, and it was like one hero which did a bunch of AoEs, and once you had that hero, you never look back. It's like, okay, I can beat all the content. I never need to change my team.
Yeah.
So it's not just number of heroes, it's also the need, the enough challenges in the content. Maybe that's what you were getting to anyway, Sham, actually. Sorry. But
no, it makes sense.
Maybe it's like enough challenges in the content that you feel like, okay, I need to adjust my roster to be able to deal with this challenge, or I've pulled a new hero and they seem super interesting because their kit is so different from what I've currently got. Like, it's one or the other, and hopefully a combination of the two.
Yeah, you definitely need to diversify on skills, on whatever the characters can do, you know, and it's always going to be a meta in a game, you know, and making sure that you don't have one character that dominates the rest of them, and people get that character and then they can beat everything with it, you know, then that's not a good thing either to have. So balance is definitely needed across the whole board with the characters and what they can do to be different, you know, is very important as well. Yeah.
No one hero to rule them all. It's not fun. It's not.
No,
it's
not at all. No.
Or even one group. Like, that's the other thing to like that is really important. It's like if there is even a set of champions that you can have together, 5 or 6, whatever the number is, that now you can just be like, oh, cool, I'll just swap this character in, and now of the 300 or however many characters there are, this is the thing that basically beats everything and is the best in PvP. That's the other problem. Like, I think kind of going back to what we're kind of leading towards is like what are the ways to really, you know, break things up and give and have the right pieces of content, right puzzles for people to solve. Like, what's the most fun, like, maybe for you, like, you know, I'm not asking you to speak for everybody, but for you, what are like the puzzles that you love to solve with your like team makeups and equipment and whatever strategies?
So usually it has to do with the bosses, you know, like having challenges in terms of what bosses you're defeating. But I feel like the main thing that would keep me playing a game is having that social experience towards the end game, where, because when you're farming a game, right, you're collecting the heroes, you're collecting the gear, but if all that does not have a purpose behind it, right, like what's the point for me to farm all this gear and collect all the heroes? What am I going to do with them after, you know? So once you're doing your content, you need to have some extreme valuable content that keeps players engaged in terms of, okay, my main goal is I want to work towards improving this team because next week I want to do better in that content. Regardless if it's some PvP or PvE. Like, one of my most favorite games ever used to be Destiny, right? It's completely different from than Raid, is a shooter, but it's still collecting gear, and every single week we used to spend tons of time in raids to improve the gear, just because either we wanted to get better for the next raid, either we wanted to get better for PvP, but we had a goal, and I feel like that's very important in a game, and most of the games coming out are lacking that goal,
That's so you're specifically saying an internally social goal, meaning like you group together to do something, not like, I mean, and this is also, I'm sure, important, right? But not like an external community and discords and people that you're talking about like in the game.
In the game, yeah. So it doesn't matter necessarily if I need to do co-op or stuff like this. I'm just kind of like saying social experience is always coming at the top in these games, because even now, like in Raid, for example, we play with clans, right? So now we do have a couple of different things that we're kind of like working on with the clan. We're talking about Hydra Clash. At some point in the future, clan versus clan PvP, So all of these game modes are kind of like building up that momentum for you to kind of like be like, I wanna improve at this, I wanna collect this hero because he's gonna help me there, or I wanna get better gear because of he's gonna improve my team in that. If you don't have that experience, I feel like the game is just not going to succeed in general, for most of these type of games,
And do you feel like Raid, and I guess maybe some of the other games that you're playing right now, kind of scratch that itch, or do you feel like there's still some more?
I feel like Raid can definitely add quite a few things to it. I mean, the PvP is fun. The problem is that we have 4 or 5 years now of Platinum Arena. It's been the same thing. They don't improve on it, So
crazy.
You get bored of it, because hey, they're not doing nothing, not even a leaderboard. But the Hydra Clash definitely brought in a new flame, and knowing that clan versus clan PvP is coming, that's actually a good thing. We actually merged a couple of clans recently with that in mind. We were like, okay, CVC is coming probably 6 months, a year, but we are building a couple of strong.
Getting ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually didn't know that. Raid announced that you're gonna have like arena style battles in CVC.
Oh yeah, they announced it like what?
They've not told us exactly what it is, but I'd imagine it's going to be that style in terms of you set a defense and the enemy clan are trying to take down your defenses.
Yep. Well, that'll be good. I mean, at least it's CVC and not just wallet versus wallet.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
it's not just like a resource dump. At least you're actually facing something from the other clan. That will be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what are your? I mean, and maybe this is now we're kind of like I'm just taking the conversation where we're going. But so that speaking to that, what are your thoughts on actually co-op and stuff like that? Like, do you feel like you would actually, because you said Destiny is your favorite. That's obviously you don't have to co-op, but you can co-op, and it's I don't want to say you pretty much do actually have to co-op.
Kind of need to for raids,
right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts about like the mobile genre and co-op? Like, do you feel like that it's just like it has no place, or oh yeah, that would be really cool, but it hasn't been done right? Like where are you at with that?
I think it's cool, bro. Like it hasn't been done properly in many games so far, but having some form of co-op, either if you're defeating bosses, either you gotta work towards the big world boss or something like that, it's definitely something that you can do. Friendly battles, that's another good thing that a lot of games don't do.
Kind of co-op, but
it is kind of like exactly. But it is something, So Dragonair, for example, they do have a very small co-op game where basically you're defeating a boss, you're claiming a small amount of resources. It's nothing too crazy, but it still gives you a bit that feeling that okay, I can play with my with my friends if I want to this game mode. But it definitely has a place in this genre,
Yeah, we're talking about doing I've spoken about this before, guys. Don't worry.
Okay. I was going to say, where's Dan? Where's Dan?
I don't know if I was allowed to or not, but yeah, we're talking about doing an arena mode where it's like a roguelike mode. So, PvP mode where it's like a roguelike mode. So, in effect, you're drafting heroes from a hero pool. There could be heroes that you don't own, and then you're kind of like going up against others that have done the same thing. So you set a defense, you choose your offense, and then away you go, try and beat enemy teams, and there'll be kind of like enhancements and power-ups and stuff like that, which change the environment every time you go in, so it'd be like a fresh experience. And then kind of on the back of that, we were like saying, well, wouldn't it be cool to do like an invitational, like Scratch. You basically form a invitational roguelike PvP match, and it's like, okay, well, us 16 now, we're going head to head, and it's more like a in your clan competition where you start to get a bit of banter going alongside playing the game mode, and that kind of like, well, hold on a minute, I feel like I'm going to take down Scratch because I know what his tactics are like, and this is what I'm going to do. And
I've seen his roster. I've got him. Like, you come in, you're like,
how would you feel? Does that fit kind of what you're saying here, or do you think that's a bit different to what you're saying?
I think that's a cool idea. I mean, it is a bit different because the game itself is different. Like Wuthering Waves, for example, is a new game. You can do co-op, so basically I can join on your world and farm some of the bosses. They are a type of boss that only appear once a week on each one of the worlds, so we can basically go around worlds to farm those bosses. But this game is completely different. It's not an open world, so I feel like the best social experience and the co-op modes is definitely related to the clans, and the thing is, people love to show off, so you have your clanmate, I just beat you in arena, and they show off, or people love to put their best timings for dungeons, or best damage in Hydra or stuff like this on a world record list, so this is kind of like what people like in this type of games, and Raid would definitely be awesome if we would have friendly fights for live arena, or a friend list where we can fight each other, not only for the actual game, but for us as content creators. So let's just say tomorrow, me and Hades, we decide to do a community tournament. So we invite as many people as they want to join in, and it's good for content. It's amazing interaction in between content creator and community. And just generally, it creates such a good vibe, It is definitely a solid feature that it is needed in this type of games,
What's the so I'm gonna kind of turn it around and put you on the spot. So this is your interview for design. What is so you get one feature that you want to put in let's say a game like Raid.
Oh,
right?
I thought you were gonna leak the name then, Sham. It was like, that's not been leaked yet. Hold on.
I had to hold it.
Hold on, I want to do that.
Yeah, nice try. So what is it? What's the one thing you're like, this is gonna kick ass? Everyone's gonna be like, oh my god, this is the new hotness. What is it?
In Raid.
What's Scratch's idea? Yeah, sure. Or in a game like Raid. So I mean, sure, in Raid.
So let's just take Raid for example. It has a lot of features now. It's a very complex game, right? So honestly, I do think that the best two features, I'm gonna give you two because it's pretty hard to decide in between. We already discussed about both of them, but I feel like there won't be much better than these two things. Either you have the clan versus clan PvP, either the co-op friendly fights with live arena, which is going to be an amazing thing. And let me add the third one. They can make some form of a world boss, which everybody works towards it. Like everybody on the entire server. Like Raid has like, I don't know, hundreds of thousands, millions of players, and they can build boss where everybody's kind of like working towards,
You mean a single boss that everyone's fighting, or
everybody in the game? Yeah, you don't even need to put
you still approach it as a single player, like as if you were fighting any old boss, but ultimately you're all kind of like grouping together your damage numbers to try and hit different goals or whatever.
That kind of what Helldivers 2 has had some success doing. It's like the whole community PvE versus objectives. So
there's definitely some cool stuff like that in Guild Wars as well, actually. Guild Wars 2.
Yeah. Guild Wars had it. I think even Slay the Spire. I mean, it's kind of its own little joke end, but whenever you finish, your collective damage goes towards like this big goal. It never resulted in anything, but that what I think is maybe what you're saying is like, if it then it's like, oh man, okay, if we get to this level or whatever, something is going to change.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't spill what's going to change, but I mean,
relating
it to like events or something, that'd be pretty sick. Yeah, that's pretty sick.
A lot of people don't like PvP, so I do like PvP. Probably some of you guys like PvP, but then there's so many people that don't like PvP. And I feel like Raid tries to force them with the Great Hall and other things to play PvP. And most of the games try to force you in a way or another to play PvP. And they should do it 100% because it's part of the experience, regardless if it's your most favorite thing to do or no. You should still have something.
We're going to have to clip that. That's a hot take. So Scratch confirmed here on camera. They should force you to play PvP.
PvP.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
There it is.
100%. Like, if you're playing the game, right, you should experience the whole thing. If you decide to don't play PvP just because, I don't know, maybe you're not good at it, which is fine, you get better. It's not a problem. But that basically leaves all that empty space in there that is just not being used. You're not playing the game at its full potential. You're not experiencing everything. And I feel like that can make people feel bored as well, Like, you do need to have a bit of frustration in these games. I know, as bad as it sounds.
I know. You're right.
If you don't get that frustration out of these games, you're just not going to enjoy them, Like, people want to be in pain. It's literally, clip this one, Chosen. People want to be in pain,
We're going to have to have a debate here, because I love PvP. I was a StarCraft pro. I love 1v1 and PvP. But, I think about a game like V Rising. Some people, they don't want PvP. And I think if the game developers of V Rising were like, no, you have to play on a PvP server where you can get raided and you're forced into that mechanic, I think it would really tank their game. So
it's interesting as well, like big games. Like let's talk World of Warcraft, right? You can either join a PvP server or not.
Or
it's
an
literally
RP server.
We're giving you the choice. Like, where are you going to go? And Honkai Star Rail, super successful game, like in terms of number of players right now.
It's crazy.
Amount of money they earn, like all of that stuff, like super successful game, zero PvP in their game. Like it's not even in the game. Not you choose whether you want to do it or not. They don't even have it. They don't have a mode for PvP.
But wow. I'll defend Scratch on this one a little bit.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying
no. But so for Honkai,
examples, right? Yeah.
For Honkai, there's still what I think you're saying is that if you're going to put a feature into the game, you should have some way that it incentivizes the player to do that.
Correct. Yeah.
That's the trouble. So and I because it's like, it sounds harsh to say, oh, you should force people to play it. You're never forcing them to play it. There's no force. It's just it's
always a choice.
If you're optimizing,
it's a choice.
If you're optimizing and you want to play well, what are you doing? You have to do it. So it's like a soft force. But I get that, because if you have a mode in the game and a tiny little part of your population plays it, well, that's not going to be a very good mode.
Sham, I mean? What would be your take? I think the main pushback from the community when it comes to raid PvP is like things like the progress missions, the PvE progress missions being tied to like getting gold 1 in Tag Team Arena. That's like the number one thing I've seen the most complaints about. Do you think, just in general, that you should have things like progress missions tied to PvP?
So here's my take on this. Essentially, I think Tag Team Arena is a perfect example. I think that Raid has, if they could somehow moonlight some of their features, I think that would be, everyone would be happy about it. And I think that's actually one of them that I would moonlight, right? But maybe we can ask about this. But what I'm getting at is that if it would be fine if there was only PvP or PvE, go do stuff, and then they also had just tag team, let's say, for example. And it's like, okay, well, this is the game. This is the structure of the game. I think it'd be fine. It's like, hey, you need to learn this mode if you want to play this game. It's part of it. But if you have 75 modes and you need to do 74 of them to be efficient, that's going to be rough. I mean, that's going to be hard on them. So
I'll give you,
and not bashing Raid. It's just they have a long history and so many amazing things. It's one of those things that I think we'll have to think about, is how do you moonlight some of those features? How do you make it? Because you can just make it irrelevant from an incentives perspective, but that's going to piss people off too. You know what I mean? So it's like you need to find a way to do that.
What I would do, and then we'll move to Scratch to get his perspective as well. What I would advise Raid on that is, if I were doing a progress mission tied to Tag Team Arena, I would say get 100 wins in Tag Team Arena. That way, like, you're getting more rewards based on the higher league you're winning in, but we're not tying it to like, you got to get gold 1. It's something everyone can do. It's like, my 100 wins might take 1,000 matches because I'm not good at PvP, and that's fine. I can still get the mission done. So that's kind of the direction I would go.
Yeah, no, that's nice. It makes it so. But it's going to be great.
You go ahead, Scratch. Sorry, I didn't want to.
Yeah, so
out there.
Force maybe was the wrong word, because you don't have.
No, don't backtrack. Don't backtrack.
Well, no, you don't have to put a gun at their head to tell them play it now. You create the incentive for them to play it. So you don't necessarily need to tie missions to it. if you want people to play PvP, you give them the best rewards in PvP. And that's not only going to benefit your whales, because most of the whales, let's be honest, they will play PvP. And the reason why they will farm more gear, the reason why they will want to collect more characters is because of PvP.
Just to show off,
and, and the main way to really incentivize the people to go and play the game mode is by giving them some of the best rewards that cannot be obtained from anywhere else, you know? And then everybody will want to play PvP regardless if they play it or no, because they already know I'm going to get a golden goose from there, you know? I want to do it. And the fun comes in there too, because they don't feel like, oh my God, I need to do these missions, 100 wins, I suck at PvP, it's going to take me forever to do it, or stuff like that, you know? So as long as you're kind of like hitting the nail in the head and you're not putting all sorts of weird missions and win 200 fights in live arena or get this many medals to do a great haul, it's going to be good. You can always make two type of great hauls. You know, you have one for PvP that can only be found from the actual PvP. Then you have one for PvE, where you have like a different game mode, and people, they can just farm their medals from that specific game mode, plus some smaller resources, you know.
I will say though, like, coming back to that example of Honkai Star Rail with no PvP, they have got hyper krakens in that game that spend tons of money, and I was of the same opinion as you, actually. You know, generally it's PvP that draws cash, because people are so hyper competitive that they want to get the best heroes and the best weapons and the best gear and everything. So Honkai must do it in another way. They must have, I guess, this element of competition where someone wants to, I don't know, just achieve the best results, or it's the same thing in effect. It's just in a different system. But I've always liked when a game mode that you enjoy helps you progress further in a similar game mode. So if I'm a really great PvP player, I really enjoy PvP, the gear that's dropping for me helps me enhance my ability to do PvP. And if I'm really into PvE and I'm really pushing that, then the gear that drops there helps me push further in PvE, rather than this kind of like mishmash of the two. And even from missions, honestly, I'd much rather, you're never forced to do it, but this direction is a PvP set of missions, and maybe there's a hero at the end of that set of missions which is very PvP focused, and then you got your PvE missions over here, very PvE focused. Like, I much prefer it that people have got the choice, but there's cool rewards going both ways, and they suit the sort of play style you've got.
You remember resilience in WoW? That's kind of what comes to mind. I don't know how that actually ended up.
Gladiator sets, like, man. You see, you're like, damn, I'm going down in this fight because he's got like full
Simon, do you risk not making the reward good enough though? Because like, let's say the PvP hero reward that's PvP focused, let's say it's meta. Well, it's like, if I haven't got the hero yet, so I'm being gate kept by the people who have the hero, and if I can only get them by finishing these missions, now it's hard. Like, the more time that goes past, the more people that have it, and the harder it is for me to catch up.
Yeah,
is that a risk?
But sometimes, like, talking about that frustration earlier, and I'm not saying necessarily, oh, you only get this hero if you are, I don't know, top 10 in plat or something, or wherever our highest league is. More about the more active you are in that game mode, you work towards that type of hero. And maybe there is stuff like top 10s in terms of gear or whatever, but ultimately, I think for heroes, there's always got to be an element to get there for someone who's just got the sheer will to do it, rather than straight skill level. But I do think there should be cool rewards for people, and probably for PvP, honestly, when you get to the real heights of PvP, cosmetics, maybe I'll scratch actually, because I think cosmetics are just as a good incentive as like gear. Scratch, talk to your experience with that.
They definitely are the cosmetics. Like, even in raid, we just get banners from there, or they get a trophy, but avatar, sorry, not banners. But everybody wants the red avatar, like, I want to get avatar. Or you see people in top 500, I want to get avatar. And that's literally everything that people want. They want to get that. They don't care about the rewards because they're pretty weak in raid, for example, but they want to get the avatars, and I do think cosmetics are playing a very important role in these games, and raid is really now utilizing that to their to the full potential.
Yeah, because it's a flex, isn't it? It's like you said earlier, like, people like to show off, and it's like, check out what I've got, and whether that's through leaderboards, whether that's through the achievements you can unlock in your account, or whether it's through stuff like banners. I actually think banners or avatars and stuff like that is great because it's so visual. It's literally like, check me out. As soon as you see that person, you're like, oh man, I'm fighting this guy in live arena. He's going to be good because he's got 2 trophies and he's got the red avatar. Like, okay, this is going to be hard.
Yeah, it is definitely very important to offer cosmetics for this type of competition, sort of game modes. Isn't Honkai like open world game though? I haven't played it, so I'm not 100% sure.
No, it's
open
not.
World light,
it's not. Okay.
Yeah,
it was made by the same people as Genshin.
I know.
Yeah. It's more a. It's not really raid style. It's anime, but it's more a raid style game than.
Oh, okay. Interesting
yeah.
that they have no PvP. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So they go hard on things like roguelike modes, storytelling. So they release patches where it's kind of like, okay, we've got a whole new content drop and it's based on a story. And so their whole thing is like we're doing PvE content drops. Which
that works too, though.
It's interesting. Yeah, I actually think it's quite a cool model, honestly. Like, the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, why the hell are we doing PvP? 10% of people like PvP. 90% of people love PvE. That's the fact.
You heard it here first.
True, actually.
Simon's
PvP
leaking.
off the table.
Oh my god! All right, cut it. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because you see so many parallels, or I see so many parallels in my mind to just sport in general, right? If you think about, hey, I went to regionals, or I went to state, or I went to nationals, and you get like you get a little bit of swag, you know what I mean? The competition and all the suffering and all the pain of exercise or whatever your sport is, and then you get to like at the highest level, people want, what do they want? They want that gold medal. They're not getting like a big. They're not getting a big old, check. Maybe a little bit of it, depending on the sport, right? Yeah. Some of the sports,
but there's plenty of people like. So I play a decent level of pool, and I know one of my team. So we're like a mid-level team in our league, but we're in like the Premier League. One of my team would absolutely love to drop down a division because he would be like, because he'd be like, oh, my averages are so good. Look how well I've done.
Yeah,
I'd much rather be in that high league competing with the best players that I could play against.
Yeah.
And so it's different mindsets, right? And that's similar with PvP, I think, is, lots of people just like to win because it's the feeling of winning rather than I want to challenge and then win. And if I lose, it's like, you know what? I've fought someone who actually was strong. So fair enough. And people don't necessarily like the losing part. And that's that's the challenge for PvP.
Like an honorable battle. I mean, and that's the thing. I think everyone kind of has this mindset, and this is just true as you're getting older. Like if you look at a kid and what they kind of like gravitate towards, it's always about like kind of the things that you're good at or you're told you're good at, right? And so I think for a lot of people, that mentality is about, okay, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to be good at PvP, but I've seen that I can be good at PvE, so I'm going to keep driving with that. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I wonder if that's part of it, but the thing that always kind of like surprises me is how willing people are to do indirect PvP, which is kind of what you're talking about with PvE and ladders and stuff like, or leaderboards rather. But as soon as it's direct PvP, it's like, whoa, I don't do. You're like, yeah, but hold on.
You literally, and sometimes it's just the label, right? It's like, oh, this is a PvP mode. Oh, I hate it. Like instant. Whoa, no, I don't want to do it. It's like, well, hold on. It's a roguelike mode where everyone's gets an even start, and it just comes down to really your knowledge of the game. It's like, well, PvP, no, like I won't be involved. Don't make me do it.
It's just PvE.
It's just a fun game mode.
PvE.
Like,
come on, guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes that could be worse. Simon doing the indirect PvP on those Krisk events. Sometimes that can be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. That was worse for sure.
That's a whale fest too, and people they go crazy for those events,
But it's the same thing. It's really PvP. But
it is.
Other question I wanted to ask, Scratch. So almost the other way. So if you were going to cut something
out of a game,
you're going to trim the fat. What are we getting rid of? In
Raid, I would definitely drop that tag team arena. Yeah, like probably it's the worst thing that they've ever added. Yeah. like if you're looking at other features, Faction Wars is great, right? And I feel like there's so much potential on that game mode. They can build so many things on it. Doom Tower, amazing, you know. Cursor is great as well, which is new. Clan Boss great. Hydra pretty good as well. Live Arena good. Classic Arena is not that great, but I guess I'm used to it now. But Tag Team Arena is one of those things that I literally dislike in doing. You know?
So imagine, right? Let's say they did nothing else, but they had a weekly leaderboard in Tag Team Arena where you could earn some cool stuff, like is it in terms of cool cosmetics. Does your opinion on it change immediately, or is it still just trash game?
For me, the main problem with Tag Team Arena is that it's Classic Arena
times three times.
That's the problem. So
if
it would be different, you know, like I don't need to. Yeah. If I want to play Tag Team Arena, I don't need to bring my Classic Arena three times in there.
But do you remember when they first launched it? They gave away. Pretty sure they gave away avatars or something.
They did, yeah.
To the top. I don't know what it was. 100 people.
Yeah, early on,
right?
Yeah.
But
they were top three actually. It was or top 5 for the avatars.
Oh, was it?
Five,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, because I know people that were playing at the highest part of the game at that point. Like Manable was someone I used to speak to quite a bit. And he was like full focused. Like, I will win this. And maybe that's because it was a one-off and it was the first time, or maybe that would kind of ease away. But I still think if they actually gave some rewards for doing that, you get a lot more engagement at least. You know, at the moment, it's just kind of like, well, why would I bother? It's just like from really trying to push to be number one compared to the guy that's at number 3,000, we get zero difference.
I think my issue with it is that if it was just a PvP game, it would be pretty necessary because you'd want to have you're trying to force people to have a variety of champions that they use in different modes, right? So that's the idea of it, right? Okay, we've got you're right. It's just 1 versus 1 3 times. So that means you need 3 teams. So you need a variety of champions and maybe you need to put up like 3 defenses, blah blah blah. But I feel like you're right. I'm right there with you. Obviously, you heard me my opinion on it earlier. I'm right there with you because I think they have enough different places where you do need a variety. Like like you said, you've already got Faction Wars, you've already got Clan Boss, you've already got Hydra, you've already got all these places that require, even just like the regular bosses as you go. Lots of different characters with different kits, with different debuffs, different buffs. Doom Tower is like, I mean, what a great piece of work that they've done there. I mean, so yeah, for me, I agree. I think that like that's one of the things that we want to be really careful about, for the Fateless game. Man, I gotta like hold my tongue. I was close, Simon. I almost said it. For the Fateless game, is that we've got all the like I said, we've got all these problems. We want to find solutions, and then we want you to have a variety of champions, so that when you pull a champion, you're like, oh, that would be so sweet for this mode. That would be so good for this team. That's going to synergize amazingly with this character. That's the hope, I think, for these gacha games in general. Is there? Yeah. Do you feel like there are any games that like hit the nail on the head? Let's say outside of Raid, any other games that you've kind of run into where you're like, man, they nailed this concept, this idea?
There are not too many in this genre that are doing a crazy good job. So it was kind of like a copy of Raid, Infinite Magic Raid, that they had a couple of different game modes. I'm not sure if you guys checked that game out.
I didn't play that one, yeah.
They had a couple of different features with factions, and you were able to use a lot of the characters in a different game modes, and it kind of like gave you the feeling that, okay, this character is going to be great there. But they had such a small amount of characters. They had under 100, so it is becoming a problem once you have a lot of characters in the game, and you're kind of like, okay, where will this character fit? Like what can we do with this one? So it's easy when it's a small amount of characters, but even for Raid, like right now they have 800 characters or so. It's so hard to find the use for every single one of them, and you don't completely get overshined by a different character that this is just such a better toy than the other one. Why would I use the other crap? So let me leave that on the side and forget about that champion. But I do think that you need to have those characters that are not really at the top, and characters that are just fillers. I feel like every game needs to kind of like
Yeah.
have them in a way or
But-
another.
but
You
I
heard
do
it
feel
here.
like
You need
even-
fillers.
Even the fillers, though, I feel like minimum, you need to be able to say, okay, this one looks like he was designed to deal with this boss, even
This
if it's
content.
like to a lower level. But
Yeah.
it's like, just having another generic. Okay, I hit single target with my first 2 abilities, and I hit all targets with my last one, but not that hard. It's just like, well, what were you for?
Why are you
what were you
here?
ever made for?
Yeah.
And I get that with maybe commons and stuff, but as soon as you get really to rare and above, there should be at least a direction for where that character was, or where that hero was made.
Yeah, definitely. Like a pinpoint. Like if this is a Fire Knight champion example, so I feel like all of them, they should have that, regardless if they're commons, uncommons, rares, epic, legendaries. They should all kind of like hint towards something, and they might not be good on stage 15, but they might be good on stage 5 while you're progressing.
Yeah.
You got him early on, But then it comes in the problem where, well, I've invested in this character, it's useless,
Yeah.
So it at the same time, of course, you can always build up on it, and later into the development, you can bring in new game modes, like use only commons, rares, or whatever, and give them another shot, so people don't feel like, well, this character is trash now. You can always do stuff like this, and I feel like Raid did it pretty well with the Curse series now, with a lot of epics and rares and stuff like this.
Have they ever done it with like commons and uncommons? Have they ever had a mode? Because I always thought like that would be
tournaments.
so fun.
We had tournaments, I think, like a couple of
Tournaments,
times.
We've had an uncommon well, you get
Spider,
rewards
yeah.
if you use uncommons, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
as a bit of a meme.
And we have I can't say what, but we have something that will address the I invested in this and it's worthless. We have something that will address that. So
That's good, yeah.
Spoilers, no spoilers. Well, Scratch, I want to make sure we ask this question and we have enough time to ask this question. I always like to ask this before we leave. I don't know if we do it every time, but what's next, man? What are you up to? Like you're doing your thing. What's next for you?
I mean, pretty much just grinding, like definitely looking to build up on other games as well, kind of like.
Is it wuthering? Do you feel it's wuthering? Do you feel it's something else on the horizon?
I think the game is amazing. Like I would personally love to play the game. It is taking quite a bit of time to kind of like master it, skill it. There's a lot of stuff going into the game. I feel like the player base is there for it at the moment, but because it requires a specific level of skill to play the game, I feel like that player base won't stick around for so long because they will find it too difficult and too time consuming. And I've been playing auto clicking games for AFK games for quite a while now, so
Yeah.
I kind of like got to the point where I understand how other players feel. Like I'm doing this for a living, is a bit different for me. I have more time to invest into the games, to play them. Then you have all these professional people that go to work, they go home, they have their families, because most of the people playing these games, they're not 15 years old, So I kind of like understand that how they feel. It's very hard to invest a lot of time into a game, and not only that you need the time to be there, but then you need to master it in terms of proper skill. Not like I have a better build on my character. It's
Right.
an actual combination of skills on the characters and stuff. So I do like the game, but I feel like in the longer run, it won't be what I need, just because of my time in my life, with the baby and stuff, but just in general with the actual player base that game will get to keep in the longer run.
Just an interesting question actually just popped into my head as you're talking there. So in a game like the game we're building, like the games we play, which are more mobile friendly, how long do you think is like the longest you should be playing a game mode before it feels like that's too long for me? Like I've only got a toilet break here. I haven't got, I've got to go and see the kids in a minute. Like, how long do you think's realistic for our sort of genre?
So I think it really depends by the game mode and how many other game modes you have that are consuming time out of your day. For example, I'll give you Hydra in Raid. It's too long. Okay, so I need to do 3 keys a week. It might take me 1+ hour to do 1 key. I feel like that's way too long. So as long as I can get up to like 30 minutes for a game mode, if I need to manual to kind of like maximize my stuff and is optional, I'm fine with 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I think is a sweet spot. But once you're getting to 1 hour and not just once a week, it feels more like a burden. Oh my God, I gotta do it again. I don't want to do it again. I hate this, So I feel like it just builds up on the pressure that you're putting on the player, and eventually, a lot of things building up like this will be like, I don't want to play this game anymore. It's not fun.
Yeah.
It's ruining the fun.
Yeah.
So I feel like
you hit that threshold.
You definitely need to keep. I think 30 minutes is a sweet spot. You have a break. You might be at home, so you can always time it. As long as you don't need to do a daily 30 minutes on a specific task, and it's something like
as long as maybe you could pull. So if it was in one go, let's say actually you have to complete a run. Are you still saying 30 minutes, or are you saying less? Like if it's 30 minutes, but I could come to it and come back to it within.
You mean? You mean it like daily, every single day? How?
No, I just mean generally a game mode.
30 minutes is acceptable. So maybe you have like a cool raid, you have like a cool challenge, a boss where you gotta go. I think that's a fair amount of time.
Cool.
If you are talking about doing dailies and stuff, then again, you don't want to make people do a lot of things that they don't want to do, because you want people to spend time in the game modes that they actually like and have fun. So dailies, they can take up to like 10-20 minutes. And the good thing about this is that you can always create a structure on it where people actually have a chance to schedule how they want to do stuff. So if I want to do my Hydra as an example, I know I'm going to do it Tuesday. Tuesday I have day off, or the kids and the wife are out. I have time to spend that 30 minutes to do it. So as long as you give that room to people to be able to schedule the content that requires more time, I feel like it is definitely the right thing to do.
Yeah, cool.
I'm in, man.
Cool. Yeah. And like Sham said, we'd like to ask people kind of what's next, and then also give them an opportunity. Our IP with like the gods and the legends. Does Scratch have a favorite god or legend that you really want to see in the game? Does one jump out to you? Something like a Leonidas or a Robin Hood or
a Robin Hood. Oh, sorry, you already covered it.
Those ones are obvious, but
I think Robin Hood is cool.
There we go. Yes.
I'm a massive fan of Hercules, though.
Oh yeah,
always been since I'm a kid. Yeah,
okay.
The Herc. Let's go.
Yeah.
Now, are you picturing? Are you picturing the Disney Hercules with?
No, not at all. I used to watch the series, bro. The actual series. Not Disney stuff. No.
Kevin Sorbo. So you're talking Kevin Sorbo style.
Yeah. Like he's cool. Like he was a badass when I was a kid. Like.
Let's go. Him and Xena, kind of.
I grew up with those series. I used to love.
I'm right there with you. Same thing. What was it called? Action Tuesdays or something. I forget what it was called now. Anyway, something like that. But that's Hercules. Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's
it is a cool one. Yeah.
Okay, it's amazing. Great. Well, thanks for joining us, Scratch. We will link down below to Scratch's channel so you can check out what he is up to now, and then also the Discord server if you would like to pop on in and chat about some of your insights, and also let us know in the comments what kind of topics you want to see on future episodes and all of that good stuff. So we will see you next week on the Fateless podcast. Thanks for watching. Peace.